Thank you very much for those who have joined us and for those who came very early. Thank you. A few people have joined us. Ame has joined us. Khairul Abdullah has joined us. Muhammad Zaki has joined. Okay. And few will just come in later. As they come in, we will have them in. So today it's going to be an interesting session, as every time, you know. So last month we had a session about virtual team building, and we were discussing virtual team building, and this is part of the Accordia's continuous learning series. And our goal is actually to have worthwhile conversations with real experts, something that so that we will all be able to learn something valuable, at the same time ask some question. And I know there's a lot of webinars going on there, but what we want to do is that we want to try to address some things a little differently, a little bit unconventionally, because the conventional stuffs are ample. It's a whole lot of things over there. So my name is Jagadishwara Manoharan from Accordia Training and Development, and today we have Captain Arivanandan. So if you know the name, Arivanandan means very most brainy person. All right, that's a direct translation. Okay,
Wow.
we have the brains in the house.
Problem ready.
I'm in the presence of a genius. Wow.
Oh God, no lah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to run the session for about 30 minutes, 35 minutes of an interview session with Captain. I'm just going to host the session today. And if you have any questions, what I would suggest is keep those questions on standby. The moment the Q&A comes, feel free to either post it directly on the chat, or if you feel that you want to ask the question, we are a small group here, so it's okay. You can unmute and ask the question directly, and we'll see what are the answers that we can give in that time that we have over here. So as we said just now, this session is about bringing valuable content for our clients, partners, so that we constantly upgrade ourselves. And there's a lot of new things are happening in Accordia. I'll share towards the tail end of this. Okay, so today's session is about design thinking, and you're going to be talking about this topic of design thinking. And the interesting thing about design thinking is that we've always known design thinking from a perspective of designing a product, designing something new, a new process and all that. But design thinking is actually beyond that. And we are very fortunate today because we have Captain Ariva with us. Now, just a bit of history of Captain Ariva. I've known Captain Ariva for like about 3 years, I guess, 4 years maybe, around there. Captain Arribas is a former ship captain. So he's not a military captain, he's a ship captain. Went up the rank and file, 13 years of sailing, seen the world, what, 72 countries, something?
49 different countries.
49 different countries, okay, and that's good enough, you know. I think many people have not even gone to 4 countries here. So you know, including myself, maybe, you know, maybe slightly more than 4. But so he has traveled the world, and for 2 years he was a full captain of a ship. So there's a lot of stories that he has. I'm not going to get into the detailed stories because that's a 2-day workshop by itself. On what happened on the ship and all the different stories that you shared last time. But after that, he went into owning a shipping company. So you're talking to a person who actually owned a shipping company with 2 bulk vessels operating between China and Australia, I believe.
Australia and South Africa.
South Africa, okay, yeah. And finally sold off the company and decided to become a full-time investor. So today, Captain Ariva is a full-time investor and a full-time trainer. So I really don't know which one is really full-time because, but you know what I mean, okay? So, Captain, I'm going to just open the question here. We have a lot of people here who would like to really know this whole topic of design thinking. Now, design thinking is before that, can I just ask everyone to just mute yourself so that we don't have any background sound, and when there's a question answer session, then you can unmute yourself, okay? So Captain, I'm going to pose this question to you, that is, we have always heard about this thing about design thinking, and it was through the conversation that I had with you, you expanded my horizon about the whole concept of design thinking and where else it can be used. So maybe for the benefit, can you just give us a brief summary of design thinking and how it is already it can be expanded to other non-product design aspect as well?
Okay, so thank you so much, Jega, for bringing me in. And hi, everybody. How's everything? Hope you are staying safe and in your home and watching this through Zoom. And I'd like to talk to you about this design thinking. Actually, I'm a design thinking professional. I've got my certification from MIT, which is in Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And what is design thinking is all about? It's actually innovation. Okay, innovation. Innovation is designing something new with the current products that is available. You fix it so to come up with something that is useful. Okay, but design thinking goes a little bit further by designing it for the people, putting users' perspective in mind. So a lot of people thought design thinking is just designing products. No, it could be so many other things. So you can even design system, design process, design services. Some people never thought about this thing called human-centered in service design. So you can also do that for the whole journey of the customer that is coming to your place. We can design that. We can even design business modeling. Let's say you're going to do this business modeling and you want to use a business modeling canvas. There is a way to design it through design thinking perspective. So you use the same business modeling canvas, but you use design thinking perspective in designing things. Strategies, your business strategy, also can be designed through design thinking. And change management. Oh, yes. If you want to do change management, you can use design thinking to process the change management. Oh my God, so many things like design thinking you can do. Because design thinking is not designing product by itself. It is all about a process. And if you can use that process in every single thing, even cooking, you can use design thinking. At home, actually, some of the wives and the mothers, they are actually super design thinking professionals when it comes to cooking using design thinking, and they use some of the principles inside there, which is called prototyping. They prototype some new food, and then they use the user to test, which is the husband. And then that husband will give wrong feedbacks. So that is the whole thing about design thinking. So I've been using design thinking because after sailing around the world for about 13 years, I was sailing. I started on my company, and also I was a consultant, also marine consultant, and designing ports. So designing port. So we have designed one port in Malaysia, my friend, which is in Tok Bali. If anybody from Kelantan, there's a port there in Kelantan, which is called the Tok Bali port. It was designed by us together with Hash Charigali. We designed that port. So it could be until to that level. So that's the range of design thinking scope that we are looking at, Jiga.
All right, great. So before I ask you for those examples, you're given a whole range of it, but you mentioned something about MIT design thinking. Now,
Right.
I am very familiar with the Stanford design thinking, the school of design thinking. So tell us a little bit about, is there a different school of design thinking? How are they different? And give us some idea about that.
Okay, the main two different type of school of thought is MIT and Stanford. The Stanford is the well-known. Everybody knows the Stanford methodology. They talk about the empathize, the define, and all those things. See? MIT got 6-step process. Stanford got 5-step process. But all this Stanford or MIT comes from the core, the mother of design thinking in the world. There is a company, my friend, who brought in design thinking as a practical approach, and that company is called IDEO. They are the design thinking. They are the mother of design thinking. What happened in Stanford and MIT is they took IDEO's principles of design thinking, and they put the steps in there. But when I go back to IDEO, because I'm part of IDEO, my friend. I'm one of the IDEO community who is in Malaysia, and we do a lot of project in the world. We work together with IDEO community around the world, and it doesn't matter MIT or it doesn't matter Stanford. All of these processes follow tiga fasa, three phase. Okay, it could be MIT, it could be Stanford, it could be Pennsylvania, it could be Princeton, it could be anybody, but they have to come back to this three phase. If you want to know, the three phase is, the first phase is called the explore phase, second phase is called the invent phase or create phase, and the third phase is called the implement phase. From this phase, that's where they came out with steps. So that is the difference. But they're gonna go back to the phase. Everybody goes back to the core phase, which is the three phase.
Okay, all right, great. So now what we want to know is that you have had experience in running design thinking projects in
Yes.
non-design environment. Could you just share some of the non-product design environment? You talked about service. Maybe share something about service. How was design thinking being used for service in Malaysia or anything?
Okay, there's the first biggest project that I've done. I won't tell which company is it. I'm so sorry. But it's a telecommunication company in Malaysia, quite a big one. We were working together with all the retail outlets and the strategy team and the brand team, and we worked together to redesign the customer service flow in the outlet. How is it supposed to happen? What is the touch points, and how are we going to improve these touch points? And we use design thinking methodology to do that. That's one of the biggest projects that we have done in Malaysia. And we wanted to, the company gave us a success metrics for us to work on, which is the NPS scoring, Net Promoter Score scoring. So because that is finally going to the customer, you see. So we were given NPS scoring to be reached about 10%, but you must understand, there's a very big difference between improvement and innovation. Improvement, yeah, you can get 10%, 20%, but when you put in even innovation, you're gonna have a turbocharged improvement. That's why we hit up to 90%. Of our target was 10%, but we reached up to 90% because of the design thinking methodology we use for the service design in the teleco company. And then we also did something for automobile industry, one of the well-known in Malaysia. There is the service center. You know, if you want to go and service your car, it will take forever. Sometimes we'll leave the car in the morning and the evening only will come and pick up, you know.
Yeah, in many places we still, sometimes we come the next day.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So this car company, we were doing a whole leadership development program for this company. And it came to a part that I was doing the design thinking process. And we designed the service design just as for a normal car to go and service their cars. No, it's no more like 2 hours, 3 hours. It's astounding the timing that they made. It's like, wow, not even 1 hour. It's 15 minutes. 15 minutes they made that it's like a pit stop already, you know. So they came out with the new design of handling that issue. So how do they do that? That one is private and confidential. I cannot reveal the method that they use. But out of all the outlets in Malaysia, there are 2 outlets right now in the ramp up process, which is it's not a prototype. It's like a skeleton setup. So that with the skeleton setup, you actually can run. You don't need to set up completely by spending money on your plant or equipment or whatever. You just set it up, and voila, they did that.
Okay, I want to just stop there and ask you, is it okay? I know you can't give the details of what they did because it would not be proprietary to them.
Right.
Okay, but tell us a bit about the process. You said, I mean, a matter of 30% increase or 20% improvement can be done through some improvement. We can
Right.
cut time, we can see how we can speed things up or double the resources and all that. But what is that design thinking approach? How was the design thinking approach able to help people to see opportunities that was never seen in a normal improvement? So tell us a bit about that. Maybe you can give us examples of other industries around the world where it's not directly a client or something, about what are some of the nuances that they actually paid attention to that created that kind of effect.
You see, for you to become a design thinker, one of the most important quality or skill that we need to learn is to become an anthropologist, which is a psychologist who's studying behavior of people. Now, if you do, you know, most of the designs can be designed just by sitting down and listening to the need of the people. You must understand there's a very big difference between what the customer want and what the customer need. There is a way to do this thing called need analysis. That's what we do in design thinking. So empathize is a word that they use, which is to listen to the customer, but the listen to the customer, but if you don't do anything with that, nothing is going to happen. So what happens with this project is, or most of the project that created that kind of turbocharge effect is about understanding what the customer really want. Okay. Another thing, what the customer need, but they don't know they need it. So they didn't know that they need that thing because they are so accustomed to that norm. They say, tak apalah ini okay je, kita okay. You know, the kita okay is a problem. They are having a problem, but they say the kita okay. Now, if you can sit down and observe, this is the thing, you need to observe. You need to know how to do this observation. When you observe I call it latent need, there are three needs: primary need, secondary need, and latent need. If you observe the latent need, they found out, oh my God, the problem is here lah. So you find that once you're done with the latent need, so improvement is the problem. Whenever we do improvement, we sit down together with our analysis team or whatever team, and we use analysis and hypothesis to come out with what probably the cause of the problem. Not going to the customer and asking, what's your problem? You know, you understand what I'm saying? There's a very big different school of thoughts, you know. If you were to do the analysis, you can do something. But the information with the customer, go and ask them and go and observe them. Asking them not enough. You need to observe them. Once you're done with that, okay, you go to the second part of the most important part in design thinking, which is coming up with ideas. See, whenever we do brainstorming in our setup that we have right now, most of the people are coming up with the normal idea that we already know even before the brainstorming session. They just come there and share, and finally what's going to happen is the same thing, but you shift 1 degree, 2 degree. Worst come towards 10 degrees because they say, careful, you cannot do anything because our company doesn't allow. You know, that kind of word, that 10 degrees. Now, for design thinking, we don't do that. We go 180 degrees. We go and come up with crazy ideas. Okay, so we do that wild idea generation. And from that wild idea generation, we bring it back and see, can it fit or not? Because if you don't go to that world of wild idea, you can never see wild things. Do you understand what I'm saying?
All right.
So that's the difference between whatever Six Sigma or Kaizen people are doing compared to design thinking approach, because it goes to a world of its own that is untapped.
So what you're saying is that you're pushing the boundaries much further, and
Much
then
further.
Reflecting on what is possible and then bringing it nearer.
Bringing it back. Yes, you need to bring it back. You need to be crazy. You need to be crazy enough to go and come up with provocative ideas. Okay. So there's one part is we need to provoke people's brain and come up with crazy ideas, wild idea, and then we make it technically feasible.
Okay, so can I just say this, because when you talk about like pushing the boundaries, a lot of whether it's critical thinking or creative thinking actually has various tools of pushing the boundaries. I think the main part here you're talking about understanding the latent need of the customer. I think
Yes,
that
correct.
is the thing, because a lot of times we only know, I mean, we wouldn't go and ask a client, do you have any complaints, because we are afraid of what we will hear. So we wait until it gets really bad, and then we do something about it. But let's say, for example, if in a service situation where we want to improve the service and you want to go into finding out the need. Now there's a challenge with this need thing is, okay, let's take for example, I'm referring to the one of the old gurus, Peter, not Peter Drucker, Tom Peters. Tom Peters
Tom
in
Peters.
in
Okay.
Search of Excellence. So back in the 80s or 90s, sorry 80s, Tom Peters, he actually said about not doing a focus group. You know, don't waste your time doing focus group. He said, you see, if they only did focus group, 3M would not have come up with post-it notes. Post-it notes was something that they came, they tried it, and they said that people liked it and they adopted it. Okay. At the same time, if you look at the way Apple does it, I doubt, I'm not sure now, but I doubt during Steve Jobs' time he ever did anything of like going and doing a focus group asking people what they want. He always, his belief is like people do not know what they want, we need to give. So how do you bring that? You see, one is, we, if you ask people what they want, they will tell you the normal stuff, because even clients may not be very sophisticated. How do you balance this between giving them something that they never knew that they wanted, but you wanted to create something like that? Is there an idea of that?
Yes, there is. Because whenever we are doing this learning part of design thinking, we do three things. One of it is interview, which is where we go and sit down with the customer and then ask what is their need. Okay, so you must understand, it is not what they want, it's what they need. That means it goes back. They don't need a smartphone. Okay, what they need is a communication method to communicate with people. So that need is what we are looking for. So Steve Jobs doesn't believe in asking people, what do you want? Do you want a smartphone or do you want an iPad? He doesn't do that. He go deeper and find out what is it that, what is the problem that the customer is having right now. That's where the interview becomes different. And number two is we use to do this thing called observation. We look at people, like let me give you an example. You know Oral-B, the toothbrush? The idea of the Oral-B toothbrush that have a squeegee handle was designed by IDEO, and the process was simple. When Oral-B asked, how can you improve this toothbrush for the kids? So everybody thought it's supposed to be reduce the size. Okay, the size supposed to be for the palm of the kid. But then they went into a secondary need and asked the kid, so what do you want in your toothbrush? They said that it's nice if it got colors, and it's nice if I have frozen in there, you know, all that kind of things. You know, the kids were telling what they want. But then what they did was they sat down and watched the kids brushing the. When they saw the kids brushing the teeth, they saw a new opportunity where the problem was not the color, the problem was not the size. The problem, when the kids were brushing the teeth, you know, all the saliva all moving everywhere and went down to the palm. What happened was it was slippery. So that's where they found out the kids need a grip. And that's where right now you have the squeegee handle. You understand?
Yeah.
Now that design happened because of observation, not because of interview. So what we need to do, that's why earlier I told that a design thinker need to be an anthropologist. That means you need to know and observe what is the current thing that they need in this place, in this service. What are the moment that matters when you are talking about the service flow in your workplace? It could be a journey map. It could be internal customer having through a journey map that for them to request for a pen. Probably they need to fill up so many papers, so many information just to get a pen, you know. And if we were to go and revisit this journey map and find out what is the moment that matter to them and observe this moment that matter, walao, I tell you, you can design so many things.
Okay, now you brought a very good thing because that one came out of observation.
Right.
And sometimes, what's funny, whenever we run team building workshops or classroom training and so on, and we ask people for ideas and they are having discussion, we find a lot of brilliant ideas coming from the people on the ground. Like a banking staff and all that, people from the ground is so brilliant, the ideas are so brilliant, but somehow the ideas don't somehow reach some people where it cannot be implemented. But let's look at organization which is heavily regulated. I mean, I'm talking about the banks. I'm having a workshop next week for a bank, and we have a lot of constraint. Zoom can be used very good, but they will not be able to download Zoom. They will join via web. So when they join Zoom via web, they cannot do annotation. A lot of constraints that we have and all. Now this in a finance industry, whether it's a banking, insurance and all, they are tightly regulated. Is there a room for design thinking in such tightly regulated organization without crossing the boundaries set by the regulators?
Yes, there is, because I worked with some insurance agencies, insurance company in Malaysia, and we came out with certain processes and certain ideas just by using this design thinking process. And you see, that's the thing. If you can see that there are certain restriction, we are not supposed to look at the restriction and then say, oh my God, there are restriction. This is the problem, because the attitude part is the one that is dampening the thought process. So what we do is that we create boundaries. Whenever we are doing that, what we call designing of certain things, we will understand, okay, the scope of this project that we're going to do, we need to understand there are certain boundaries that we cannot pass through. So when we create the boundaries, there's a good thing. Good thing is, you are not going everywhere and coming out with ideas that is, I don't know, probably might not work in your company. So you already scope it that your idea will be very localized. So when the idea is very localized, that means very unique already. So what you need to do is don't go broad, go deep. Go and dig deep and find out what is the real need that we're looking at. And sometimes you don't need to come out with, it's not about idea dashat, no. It's not about, a lot of people thought the idea must be wonderful. No. It's the idea that the customer needs. It must solve the customer's real problem. If your customer comes and tell you, how did you know that I need this, huh? Walao, you already won the game already. That's what design thinking is all about. So you don't need to go wild to, the idea no need to go broad. You can go deep just by understanding the moment or the attribute that matters for the customer. And then you will win already.
Okay, so if, let's say, for example, for a design, okay, I understand you had some experience with manufacturing, with a glove manufacturer before this. Let's talk about like process improvement. So in a case of process improvement, who is the client here? Is it the boss or the real client? Or because the product is not going to be improved, they are going to improve the process. So who will be the client, and what if a design team is there assembled to look into this process, who would they empathize with?
Okay, so the most important thing is you need to understand there's thing called stakeholders, and you need to go to the primary stakeholder, that means the user of that process, because the user of that process that is the first people you go and communicate and empathize with. You need to ask questions, you need to observe them. So if you can if you can interview these people who is in that process, that's the first level of interview are done. Then you go to the next level of interview, which is the secondary stakeholders, which are the people who are directly connected. They are not directly a user, but they are connected to these people. And you need to do that interview with these people. Now, probably the third tier and all, you might not go and waste your time communicating with them, because they will come out with their need that is not directly connected to this. So if you can do user and the directly one level a little bit up, directly connected, which probably is their management team, we already done our part in doing the what we call this empathize and getting the need analysis. That would be good enough already.
So would you say that that stakeholder, could it also be vendors, suppliers of the raw material or anything like that? Or
if they are not directly connected, then no. If
No.
they are directly connected, yes, because some processes, the tier goes third or fourth level, you know. So the vendor could be the fourth level. By communicating with them, you might only get very few information. So I don't want to waste my time sitting down there for 1 hour to talk to a person who is not directly. Right. So the information that we're getting, because you must understand, the data could be very exhaustive, you know, because when you interview, you're going to get a lot of information already. And that was one of the mistakes that we did in the beginning stage of doing design thinking, because we thought we want to interview everybody 3 levels above than the user. And you know what happened? The data that came in, oh my God, is much. And if I were to do that 10% of that data, I could have got the same result and looking at the 100% of the data. You understand what I'm saying or not?
Right.
So the 10% data already got that information. Why you want to exhaust yourself looking for so much of data? You understand?
So I guess this is a bit of like you said, an anthropologist, you know, a bit of wisdom to know which is relevant, which is not relevant. And I guess when you're in the industry and you're really connected with your customer, you will be able to find that out as well.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
But in line with data, so right now, today we have a new world. When design thinking first came about, the data was an interview. The data was gathering. Today, the data is coming from various sources, especially organizations that has big data and all that. The overload of data is actually happening. I was actually talking to one data scientist from one of the telcos and asked him about all this big data, how things are working out and all. How do you know what to do? He said that is the biggest challenge. Our challenge today is not the data. Our challenge is, are we able to make sense out of the data that we are getting? Because sometimes we are getting a lot of data, real-time data, you know, people movement and all that, but how does that really affect the business? How could we use that is another question. So in a world of big data, how would we bring design thinking in a manner that we can still maintain our sanity while we are coming up with solutions?
Okay, so the problem with big data is sometimes they create hypotheses that probably this could be the issue, and from there they design a question from that, and it is not a dynamic question, it is very linear question, which is you ask one question, that customer will answer the question, and that is captured. And using big data, probably they might go a little bit further, but the design of that analysis could be overwhelming, because sometimes you see there are 2 different type of data that we talk about when we talk about design thinking. Number one is called impression or perceptions. Now this is where you ask everybody, do you like this color or that color? Do you like this or that? Which one do you prefer? Those are all called impression and perception. Design thinkers doesn't look at that data, because they know if you go into that data, it's a rabbit hole that goes into another parallel universe. You understand what I'm saying?
Like that. You'll find yourself there. You know?
I don't know where I am. You understand? So you shouldn't go into that level. Okay. So what we do is that we don't go into that portion of data, because we know that data, the way we are really concerned about how they derive the data, because there could be a lot of logical fallacies, you know, when they're deriving that data. They could have even asked a question which is not valid, which is, do you like black or white? And that is a wrong question to ask, so we don't know how they ask the question, and then suddenly you got a data. Everybody 75% like black and 25% like white. Why they don't like purple? I've been wondering, you understand? So all this data is there, but design thinkers, they go different. They go into need analysis. So need data is a total different data analysis. It is driven through a journey map. So you need to come out with the journey map of a customer. From the journey map, you go and find out which part of the journey mapping is the people having an issue. And from there, you derive what is the moment that we're going to put ourselves into to design. We're not going to design the whole thing. No need. Okay. We just design part of it. And that would create an impact for that. Do you understand? So that's the thing. The data analysis that is happening here, most of the design thinker, and in IDEO, we don't go and tap into that data. No, we go into our own way of collecting data.
All right. So that errors the thing about unnecessary interpolation, which
correct.
You're right. It will. I think it's not parallel. I think it'll take you to a black hole. You know. you never come back.
Correct.
So thanks. There's a lot of information they have given in terms of application of design thinking. I'm truly a believer of that. I mean, even in our organization, Accordia, we are so much into user thing. That is why even right now, as we are designing virtual team building, we explored so many avenues like Tabletopia and all that. But at the end of the day, is how is the user? We realize that Tabletopia is actually a web thing where you can actually build a board game inside there. But some computers will have challenge in going in if their RAM is not enough. And we have experienced this. So we pushed it aside because right now there is actually a technology challenge for that. And for us, at the end of the day, is the user experience. User experience comes first compared to anything else. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to open up right now for question and answer, and we would like to get some questions. If you have any questions, you can put it into the chat box, or if there's a bit of detail, we may ask you to ask that question. So we have one here from Mr. Ong here. He said, what's the third after interview and observation?
There's a thing called experience. That means you go into that journey map and you experience from your point of view. Give you an example. Let's say you're going to redesign the touch and go cards, what we call process right now. So what you do is that you can observe there sitting at that, let's say we go to this, what we call the place that people use touch and go a lot, probably is the MRT station. You can see people, so probably we sit down there and observe them, or we can interview some of the people who can't pass through and you ask them questions, or you go through yourself. You take a card that doesn't have enough balance, go through it and do the TT, feel it. How does it feel when that thing cannot open and everybody look at you? And one uncle will come and tell you all this feeling you go through, and that's the third part, Boon Ki Ong.
All right. So in other words, that's what you say, walking the floor. I mean, I don't know, somehow I go back to Tom Peters. I kind of like that guy because he said something about management by walking about. So manager will only know what is really happening when you get out of the room, you go walk around and find out what's happening. So here's the next question from Krishna Veni. Why is design thinking an important skill in social innovation?
Okay, so let me get this right. Social innovation means you're coming up with ideas that is towards CSR. Is that right, Krishna Vini?
Krishna Vini, you want to?
Yeah, okay, towards CSR. See, we've been talking about design thinking on the first phase, all this while. See, everybody, we were talking about analysis, we are talking about interview, we're talking about observation, we're talking about coming out with a great idea, but design thinking's core is not there. design thinking score is on the prototyping. The core part of design thinking is coming up with the prototype fast. So what we do in design thinking as a design thinking professional is we spend our time. You see, there's a difference between Stanford and MIT approach. Huh? Stanford approach, they spend a lot of time in analysis. But MIT approach, we go through the analysis faster and come up with the prototype and go back to the customer. Do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this? And that prototyping part is where design thinking becomes so important. So when you're coming up with a social innovation, rather than kita seronok sendiri, oh my God, we did it lah. I think customer will like it. That's called seronok. You understand? Rather than that, why don't you do that social innovation, whatever design that you have, go back to the customer or the lead user and ask them, how do you find this? How would you, what are the feedback that you're going to give me? Tell me how we can improve from here onwards. And there you fine tune by using design thinking to complete the process at the end. So that's where design thinking comes into social innovation, not in the beginning, but at the prototyping part, testing, prototyping, implementing, testing, prototyping, until it solved the problem that we are trying to solve.
So it's like the multiple testing is where that ideas are coming from on what.
Right. Yeah. So Anita.
So to stage, okay, is getting the deep understanding of the problem either from the observation or by asking the user.
Okay, both the thing we need to do, we need to spend time doing 3 process: experience, interview, and also observation. All this thing we need to do because we are covering 3 needs: primary need, secondary need, and latent need. Secondary need can be covered by asking interview. So empathize stage is getting deep understanding of the problem either from observation or by asking user. It's about both. So when you ask user, you'll only go until the secondary need. You might slip 1 or 2 to the latent need, but that latent need, you need to do proper observation, watch them and experience, and then you can get into the latent need. And synthesize only data acquired this way to define the problem. Yes, correct. From here, you will do a need analysis to find out what is the real emotion there and what is the real moment that mattered. Okay, so that's where that data is supposed to go towards that level to find out the attribute or the moments that matter. If not, you see, when you want to design a new way coming to a restaurant, most of the process would be it's insignificant. So we need to observe which part that is significant that creates a different impact, and you just have to repair that. So that's why you need to acquire that data to find out what is that moment or the attribute that matters. Okay.
Right. The next question is quite interesting. I think we have had conversation about this persona thing. So the question is, do you create a persona? So can you tell us?
Yes, I do.
You create
yes,
a
persona. It's so important to create persona, especially in the beginning part. The first step itself is about 2 things. You have to scope your idea and scope the persona. You must do that customer persona. Why? Because I know the customer can be different type of mentality and different type of value system and all. But this is the different thing about innovation and design thinking. So when you sit down and come out with a toothbrush, and when you know the kid, it's a kid that is being scolded to go and brush the teeth. You know, that's what's happening in most of the house. Go and brush your teeth lah. You know, and you know that is the value system. They value not brushing teeth. They value to sit down and watch TV first. If we can understand that, then the way we're going to design is a little bit different. So creating the persona will make us scope the idea better. So it will focus our thought in a better format when we are going to the questioning. Because when we come up with the interview, we might, if we make it very general, the question can go anywhere. You know?
Right.
But if you can specify the persona, it becomes easier. But the persona will be less significant, not insignificant, less significant during the prototyping part, because we'll be going back to the customer and ask, okay, we will go back to the customer with every different persona and start asking them for a test and make it better. You understand?
Okay. So there's a thing here. So persona will give a better perspective and context.
Correct. That's right, Shazwan.
But I want to ask you, if that's the case, would the multiple prototype refine the persona?
It won't refine the persona, but it will refine the product need. Okay. Persona is persona. We use persona because I tell you one thing. One problem with innovation is this: our brain, if you don't focus it in the thought process, oh my God! Again, what we told, go to the black hole. You understand? So we are doing that because of we want to somehow rather push that creating part faster. We need a persona for that. But after we created that persona, put it aside and then go back to the customer. I've used this thought process for me to come up with this, and let's see, does it suit to every other personas or not? Okay. So that's where you fine tune, and you get better with that product.
Okay, there's a question here from Ms. Kage. She is asking the thing about, the toothbrush example. What is a persona? So maybe for the benefit of people who are probably just new to this idea of a thing, can you example just give us a sample of a persona? What would you classify as a persona, so we can visualize a persona?
So okay, in a persona, what we'll do is we will talk about 1% or 2%. It could be one set of persona. It's like we want to know, okay, how old is this user? Okay, what could be the ethnicity of the user? It will help us a little bit. And then what is their values? What do they value most? Okay, and then where do they live? And what kind of salary or what kind of financial background that they are in? That could be another persona. And then we will also take a picture. We will take a, okay, so when we talk about this, I will take a picture from the Google and say that, yeah, this face lebih kurang lah, and put it there. It could be anybody. It could be you also, Jega. I don't know. One day I'm going to take a picture. This is the persona. I'm going to do that to Shazwan also. Take one picture, put there. This Shazwan persona. And from there, we study, okay, this is the persona. This is the value system. These are their likings and these are their wants. This is how they live. And then I create like what we call a profile of this person. And whenever anything goes through, when the discussion goes through, we go back to the team and say, hey, remember, we are doing this for Jega, not for Sasi. It's Jega. Okay. You understand? Like that.
So would it correct if I were to use the term like you're creating an avatar of this?
Correct. Yes, creating an avatar. Yes.
All right. So we have a question here.
I know. Ask a question.
No.
One of the elements in design thinking that I know of is prototyping. How is this applicable if you are using design thinking to come up with your departmental strategy, for instance? Oh, lovely, fantastic. Okay. So prototyping is not just prototyping like this, 3D. Prototyping can also be a storyboard. That is also prototyping. Okay, prototyping a lot. Prototyping also can be a flow of funneling. That probably you have a funneling of how a process is supposed to go. Start from here, then here, then here, then here. There's a process flow. Prototyping also can be, I tell you, this one is fun. When we do prototype in IDEO, we have a new way of prototyping, which is called role play. Role play is also part of prototyping. So we come up with this idea that this is supposed to be like this, and then we role play one round and see whether it works or not, and we define. So there will be people observing that role play and see where are the gaps, is the gaps being solved, and all this thing. So prototyping in strategy can be any way. If it is going to be a process flow, that is the process flow prototype. If it's going to be a marketing campaign prototype. So those are the prototype. There's a lot of different type of prototype. Some of the prototype that we have done for one company which is the automobile. We prototype by just making a cardboard, and we prototype the new what we call service center, just by using cardboard. Bill. Okay, this one's supposed to be here. This one's supposed to be here. Tukar, this one put here. Okay, you bawa kereta like that. You understand? So it could be any way.
It's like a real life simulator, right?
Yeah. You have to create the real life simulator, because then only you can see, then only you can observe the thing.
Okay. Here's a question about how much time is needed for a design thinking process improvement. So what we're going to do, we have about 4 minutes on the clock. I want you to answer this question. But at the same time, let's say we have people here who have an idea. They want to start design thinking. Before they even engage any professional to talk about design thinking, what are some of the things they need to prepare on their end? At least some idea, some homework before we talk to a design thinking professional. So maybe we'll answer the question from Mr. Ong first.
Okay, so Mr. Ong, let me tell you how much time is needed for DT in process improvement. Actually, about 14 hours of few people, probably about 5 to 9 people, can actually come up with a prototype. Okay, 14 hours. 7 hours can, but I'm scared that the analysis will be half cooked, you see. So it's better to have 14 hours. I've done a lot of 14 hours prototyping for process improvement. But after, you must understand, prototyping is just one part. After prototyping is actually create phase, not just implement phase. The third phase is the one that's take a long time, because we need to test and refine. That could take few days if you can do that testing, and if you have all the resources required, you can go through the whole process inside there. And the question again, Jiga?
About if we are going to say, let's say an organization or a team wants to look into design thinking, what are some of the preparation they have to have before we come and speak to any design thinking professional?
Okay, so that few things I found out when we are doing design thinking program. So the way we do in Accordia is a little bit different. We don't just talk about there is a thing called convergence thinking, divergence thinking. At the end of the day, don't know what thinking that you came out. That's not going to happen. It's going to be a project-based learning. So if it is going to be a project-based learning, you need to decide on projects. What are the projects that you want to improve? You don't need to come out with the idea. You just need to tell me that I think I want to improve this part of the process. It's good if this part of the process is like this. A vague idea is good enough already. And if don't just one person think about it, everybody in the department, tell them to think about 2 ideas that need to be improved in the workplace. Could be process, could be service, it could be product, whatever is it. It could be an apps also we can do, because I also can design a new flow of the apps and all this thing. And just come with that, and then we will define it in the class. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, please get buy-in from the senior managers, because
I know that
I can tell you, I can design a prototype in the class, but after the prototype, what happens is, because of the political thing that is happening in the company, the prototype habis. So it's very disheartening, to see that ideas are already ready to be implemented, but it is not going because some people didn't know, some people was not told, and all this thing. So bring in a senior manager and tell the person who can make a decision, yes, go ahead. Because when he come into the class and see that the prototyping is happening, he'll be amazed on what are the ideas that you all came out with. So get the buy-in well in advance, and then we can do that. If you want to do the second part, okay, the first part of the design thinking is all about designing prototype and all. If you want us to communicate and teach you how to do the pitching, sometimes you want to pitch that idea is very difficult. Now we're going to teach you how to do the pitching correctly. It's not a presentation skill. Hello. Idea pitching is totally different. There is one main part of the idea pitching which is called business viability. How do you calculate the cash flow of the the cash flow? Because you have done this project, how did you improve the cash flow in the company? How did you make money or reduce costs? We will teach you how to do that spreadsheet, that whole thing, and then probably the take up rate after that it would be higher because you're looking at that point of view. So two things: ideas, stakeholder. Please make sure you get the senior manager involved.
Yeah, I guess that's very important because we say, when it comes to management, remember when we were working on the Prodigy project, when the students came up with all kinds of ideas. And for us, it's simple. If you can't bring numbers to the management, don't talk to management.
Yes, correct.
They're not going to say, it's a wonderful idea. I got a fantastic idea. Where's your data?
Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you very much, Captain. I think it was wonderful, very insightful. The most important thing is, I think it has broadened the perspective of what design thinking is. So, for those who have joined us, thank you very much. If you are looking into something, just maybe exploratory, you just want to bounce some ideas to look at how design thinking, do give us a call. We'll be more than happy. And we are rolling out a few initiatives recently. One of the things is working with remote teams, because that's becoming a challenge today with many organizations. So we are actually having a program on that. So let us know if there's something that you want us to work on. And join us again next month. We are going to bring a new idea. The topic would be, actually, we don't know. We also prototype as we go,
Exactly. Wow.
When the time comes, the market needs this, and even this topic was because of what we saw. Things are happening, and all. And I think there's another thing is, I think there's some level of positivity happening. I don't know. I can see, I'm in my office today for this webinar, and when I look outside there, the car park is full. There's no parking available. So I'm not sure, is that MCO good or not good? But I guess economy is coming back. So I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you very much for joining, and we will catch up soon. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon, guys. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.